everyone, happy October. My name is Mike, and this is The Bored Cyborg. Welcome back to yet another episode. Today I'm talking about David Cronenberg. What I'm going to do is rank all of his horror films, all 9 of them, what I consider his horror films at least, and I'm going to rank them from 9 to 1, and let's do it! I'd love to know what your ranking of Cronenberg's horror films looks like, so feel free to leave that down in the comments below, and we could get a discussion rolling as usual. Let's not waste any more time, jump right into the list with my number 9, which is Rabid. Now, I will say, I love all of these films. All of them are 3.5s and up out of 5. So, Rabid is no exception. Rabid follows Marilyn Chambers' character Rose as a woman who has some sort of a surgery done, like an emergency surgery, and afterwards she develops an insatiable thirst for blood. As the title suggests, or tells you, she is rabid. So this is not a zombie movie, even though it kinda teeters on that territory. It's not a vampire movie. The virus in her is trying to affect as many people as possible. That's what separates this movie from a lot of films like it. As she infects all of these people, they become increasingly more insane, and so we have scenes of a whole bunch of just craziness happening, and it's a really good movie. But it is my number 9 in terms of Cronenberg's horror films. That's not to say I don't love it, because I really do. Rabid. My number 8 is a film that every time I go into it, I'm thinking I'm going to end up loving it, but I just come out of it saying, you know, that's a damn good movie. It never really goes past the 3.5 for me. That is Scanners. This is a sci-fi horror film, of course. This is probably his most commercial film. I'd even say even more commercial than The Fly. Scanners follows a group of people, in this case, one man in particular, who is a scanner. They are a sort of a evolution. It seems like sort of the next step of evolution for humans and our minds. These people could read others' minds, but they could do much more than that, as evidenced in the first 5 minutes of this movie, with one of the most glorious head explosions ever put to celluloid. As if a shotgun was behind his head, blowing him to bits, which probably actually happened. I remember reading somewhere that is how they accomplished it. A shotgun to the prosthetic head, which sounds very safe. This film is a blast. It's very fun. I've not seen the sequels. It is my number 8 Cronenberg film. I still really, really like it, but it never really goes past that 3.5 mark for me. It is my number 8. Oh yeah, Shivers is my number 7, also known as They Came From Within. This is the first example of Cronenberg doing a straight-up venereal horror, body horror sort of thing. In this case, literally venereal horror. It is an STD, essentially, gone rampant. These weird slug sort of things are this parasite that find themselves into human beings and proceeds to drive them mad, usually through sexual aggression, more so than anything. So there's obviously, as usual, there's biting satire, biting political commentary. We know how much Cronenberg hates large corporations that try to control people. This is a prime example of that. This is the first time he really delved into this sort of thing. This is really the film that made Cronenberg. It's the one that started the term Cronenbergian. This is body horror through and through. It's a great movie. It is my number 7, Shivers, or They Came From Within. The next film on my list is going to be hard to talk about. It's the weirdest film in the man's filmography. It's definitely the least horror out of any film on this list. That is Existence, or Existence. It's Existence, really. This is such a weird fucking movie. It follows this video game developer, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, who has created this weird symbiosis between organic matter and gaming, where you, like, kind of plug yourself in, pre-Matrix, by the way, this is 99, or around the same time as The Matrix, you plug yourself into this video game world, virtual reality sort of thing. But it's all very body horror and very organic. Like I said, like, you have to... I don't remember all the details, but it's when they're hooking in, I think it is something in the back of their neck or in the side of their ear, somewhere like that. And this film blurs the line between reality and and this fictional video game universe, and it does so in a really cool and confusing and bemusing way. The cast is insane. Jennifer Jason Leigh, Jude Law, Ian Holm, Sarah Polley, Willem Dafoe as Gas, a little side character, that's right. In the beginning, basically this crazed, insane killer guy busts crashes the demonstration of this new console, this new gaming experience, and, says that we're all doomed and he must destroy the machine and whatnot. So he does so. Jude Law is called in as her sort of companion throughout the film to find out what happened to the damaged system, to test it, to make sure that everything is up and running as it should be. Things get progressively weirder. It's one of the weirdest films I've ever seen. It's also fucking awesome. It is my number 6 favorite Cronenberg horror film, Existence, or Existenz. Sounds like a sexual enhancement drug. Moving on. My number 5 is Dead Ringers. Man, this is, this really walks the line between drama and horror, but it is a dramatic horror film. Absolutely. Dead Ringers is such a great, weird Cronenbergian movie. It is Cronenberg through and through. Despite it not having much body horror, it has enough. It has enough allusions to it, and it does have one killer prosthetic makeup scene. This follows Jeremy Irons' characters. He plays identical twins in probably the greatest performance of its kind that I've ever seen. He plays twin gynecologists that live in the same home and share the same women. Very strange setup right off the bat, right? So immediately, Claire, this young woman, is caught up between the two of them, and the audience never knows who she's actually sleeping with, and it's very weird. Even though they're two distinct characters, they act like one another to deceive people, and there's some weird power thing going on with them, and it's a very strange dichotomy. But Jeremy Irons is so goddamn good in this movie, and it just is one of those psychological thrillers that you never really know where it's going and what it's trying to say, but when you finally catch on to what it's trying to say, it really leaves an impact. It just confuses the audience in a great way, confuses the characters, keeps you interested, keeps you engaged and guessing. Dead Ringers is such a one-of-a-kind film in the man's discography. I've yet to open the Scream Factory Blu-ray here. This is my number 5 Cronenberg horror film. It's amazing. Dead Ringers. My number 4 is The Dead Zone. I love this movie. Granted, I feel like it's the least Cronenbergian film on this list, and possibly the least Cronenbergian film in his filmography. That I'd have to think about. But definitely the least Cronenbergian horror film. This might be his most commercial film. It feels more mainstream, but that doesn't take away from how masterfully done and how well the story is told. This is a Stephen King story called The Dead Zone, which was made into a TV show years after the movie was put into production. Christopher Walken is the Rock in this movie. He is such... Not literally the Rock. He's the Rock of this movie. He's the foundation of this movie. That would make for an interesting twist, though. It's also all about the relationship between Walken's character and Brooke Adams' character. Their relationship, their love emanates from the screen, and very early on in the film, they get into a terrible car accident. Walken's character is put into a coma for something like 4 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years, not 45. When he comes out of it, he learns that he has this new ability to forecast the future in a very particular way. He starts seeing people's demise, people's deaths, the ways that they die in the future. And so, at first, he feels helpless and confused, of course, but as time goes on, he tries to change the situations that are going to lead to that person's death. By the end of the film, he's using his powers to do something very revolutionary, and in every sense of the word. And it involves a political figure in Martin Sheen's character. It's just a really well-told story with so many great set pieces and phenomenal performances by all the people involved, especially Walken, Brooke Adams, and Martin Sheen. The Dead Zone is excellent. That's why it's my number 4 Cronenberg horror film, Dead Zone. Next up is a film that I sadly do not own. In fact, I've never owned it. I've never found it in the wild. It never came into the old bookstore. I never got it. I've never picked it up. That is Videodrome. Videodrome is one of the sleaziest, grimiest horror films that I've ever seen. James Woods plays sleazy like nobody else, and he nails this role through and through. He's not a good guy. He's a scumbucket, but you somehow empathize with him when things start to hit the fan. Videodrome is known for its practical effects and its biting commentary on what television and what media has the potential to do to us as social individuals. And all of that is just portrayed perfectly within this film. The practical effects are phenomenal. Everybody knows the shot of the hand kind of coming out of the screen, the static screen. Such an iconic image. You know, the scene where James Woods digging into his abdomen to get a videotape, to put a videotape in. Very weird shit. Obviously, there is so much imagery that is allegorical and is saying something larger than the images itself. Cronenberg was worried about what media would do to us, and guess what? Guess where we're at in 2019, where all we're doing is this. We're not talking to each other as much. Prescient fucking movie, despite its aged technology. Videodrome holds up remarkably well. It is my number 3 Cronenberg horror film. I love it. My number 2 is one of the greatest horror films of all time. That is the remake of The Fly. This is a remake from the 50s film starring Vincent Price, or co-starring Vincent Price, I should say. The Fly is a better movie in almost every sense of the word. It follows Jeff Goldblum in the greatest turn in his entire career, in my opinion, and also Gina Davis's characters, but it really focuses on Jeff Goldblum's character, Brundle. And he's a reclusive, ambitious, charismatic sort of scientist who is trying to figure out teleportation. He tests it early on with a chimpanzee, a monkey of some sort. I'm sure it was a chimp. And it goes horribly wrong for the poor chimp. He ends up a wad of convoluted and disgusting flesh, just twitching. The next time he attempts it, he gets in the pod. Because he's so sure of his invention. He gets in the pod, butt-ass naked. And also at the same time, a fly gets in there. So their genes get spliced. And Goldblum's character starts transforming slowly and painfully into a giant human fly. What really makes this movie work so damn well is the relationship between him and Gina Davis's character. Their chemistry is unbelievable. You really buy that they're falling in love, and just as they are doing just that, falling in love, his affliction becomes more and more invasive and handicaps him in ways that he is not going to be able to recover from. It's tragic as you watch him literally fall apart and transmutate into this disgusting, unbelievably awesome fly. Practical effects, some of the best you'll ever see. Some of the best lit, some of the best functioning, just incredible. The Fly is one of the best horror films of all time. That's why it's my number 2 Cronenberg horror film ever. The Fly. And my number 1, it's so hard for me to differentiate between The Fly and my actual number 1 here. I love both of them equally, but for some reason, The Brood just takes the number 1 spot, man. Just takes the number 1 spot. It is quintessentially Cronenbergian. Samantha Eggar in this movie transcends acting. Her facial expressions, her eye contact, her creepiness, her uncanniness as a tattered, mentally tattered woman who is trying to deal with her own mind, but she is getting caught up in it and is very confused, but seems so enlightened in such a creepy way. In the very beginning, it establishes that this doctor, Oliver Reed's character, who is fantastic as well, is doing this new psychoplasmics, I believe it's called, where it allows his patients that are going through mental trauma to express their traumas, their pain, in physical manifestations. So the guy in the beginning starts breaking out in weird, disgusting hives. Samantha Eggar's character expresses these feelings in a much more subtle way, we'll say. The ending of this film is one of the best in horror cinema ever. It's one of the creepiest, one of the most jarring, one of the most punch you in the fucking nuts sequences you'll ever seen. It chills me to the bone. Everything about this movie is perfection. I love it. It is Cronenberg through and through. it is The Brood. I just want to thank you guys for checking out my ranking of David Cronenberg's horror films, all 9 of them that I consider his horror films. I ranked them all. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'd love to see what your ranking list looks like, so feel free to leave it down in the comments below. I'd love to get a little discussion. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like it, go ahead and hit this... Where am I? Subscribe button as well as the little bell for notifications. Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bored Cyborg, out.